boys and girls, it's Miss Iredale back again for another day of math exploration. What we're going to tackle today is creating equivalent fractions using a common denominator, but I thought we'd also use a visual model to help us, because if you're anything like me, my brain works better if I have a picture to help me understand. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is what does it mean exactly to create an equivalent fraction. Guys, equivalent fractions are simply the same amount, but there's a different numerator and a different denominator. So your piece, which is the same amount, as in this piece here, we all have a half on each of these holes, but they've been cut differently, okay? So let's identify how we've cut each of these fractions. My denominator, I find it by counting my total pieces. I have a total of 12 here. My numerator is how many pieces are shaded in, and I have a total of 6. So we have 6 out of 12. On this one, my denominator, how many pieces do I have? I have 6, and I've shaded in 3. And then my final one, I have 2 total pieces, so that's my denominator, and I've shaded in 1. So my numerator is going to be 1, okay? So an equivalent fraction means that all of these fractions are the same, but we now want to show them all having the same denominator, okay? So to find an equivalent fraction, the first thing you're going to do, if you're wanting to find common denominators, is you look at the denominators that you currently have, and you go to the biggest denominator, okay? 12 is definitely my biggest. So you are going to start finding multiples of 12 until you find the number that all 3 of those numbers go into. And that way we can change how our whole is cut. Well, don't forget to do 12. Your first multiple is 12 times 1. 12 times 1 is 12. And we got lucky because 6 and 2 both go into 12. So that is going to be our multiple. That is going to be the denominator for all 3 of these fractions, okay? Remember, we're trying to create a common denominator with the pictures that we've been given, all right? Well, this one was 12. How did we change it? We didn't change it at all. It went from 12 to 12. So it just stays 6/12. It's already done. It's already set up for us, okay? Now the next one, we want this denominator to read 12, okay? So how am I going to turn these 6 pieces into 12? Well, I know to get 12 from 6, I have to multiply by 2. That means I need to take each of these 6 pieces and have them represent 2 pieces. So to do that, I have to cut them each in half. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut each of these pieces in half. And we should now have, let me get a different color ink. We should now have 12 pieces. And that looks great, okay? So now count how many pieces are shaded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, we've created an equivalent fraction, okay? All right, for the final, how are we going to cut this to make it show the same amount of pieces as this one? Well, we're taking the denominator from 2 to 12. So what do we have to do to the number 2 to get 12? We have to multiply it by 6. Well, in fractions, multiplying by 6, if we want these 2 pieces to be 12, we really need to make each of these parts 6 parts. So we're going to cut them into 6 equal parts. So what Miss Iredale is going to do is she's going to use this other color ink, and I'm going to go from this point to this point to this point. Now I've got 6 pieces. I need 12. So I need to cut each of them in half. It's kind of tricky. Fractions can be counterintuitive. We know that we need to multiply 2 to 12. 2 by 2, you multiply it by 6, but that means you really have to cut it into 6 equal parts to get those parts. We now have 12 parts. We now have them colored. There are 6 equal sections. And voila, we have 6/12, 6/12, 6/12. So this is the beginning introduction on how to cut your visual